Project 8429. Viewers: Chris Niemak, Don D. Corsell, Gemma Warner, John Adams, John Dixon, Lily Efflorescence, and Patrick Flanagan. The main topic of investigation for the project was the apparatus for the utilization of radiant energies, a technology patented by world-known inventor Nikola Tesla. The rationale for the tasking was an interview that Tesla gave to the Brooklyn Eagle in 1931, in which he stated, "I have harnessed the cosmic rays and caused them to operate a motive device. The cosmic ray ionizes the air, setting free many charges, ions and electrons. These charges are captured in a condenser which is made to discharge through the circuit of the motor. I have hopes of building my motor on a large scale, but circumstances have not been favorable to carrying out my plan." We could not help but wonder, what was that motive device? Some accounts say that it was a luxury Pierce Arrow sedan fitted with a 1,800 revolutions per minute electric motor, and was powered by receiver tuned to tap energy from the ether. In an interview given to Derek Allers in 1967, Peter Savo, an acquaintance of Tesla, gives a detailed description of the car. Under the hood, there was a brushless electric motor. The engine was said to measure 40 inches long by 28 inches diameter. Set into the dash was a power receiver consisting of a box measuring about 24 inches long by 10 inches wide by 6 inches high, containing 12 radio tubes. 3 of these tubes were model 70L-7. A vertical antenna consisting of a 6-foot rod was installed and connected to the power receiver. The receiver, in turn, was connected to the motor by 2 heavy cables. 2 spindles about 1/4 of an inch diameter by 3 inches long protruded from the receiver towards the driver. Is there any truth to the Pierce Arrow story? Or is it just a hoax, as many claim it to be? Tesla had the technology patented, but has he ever developed a working prototype? According to the memorandum of Heinrich Jabens, the president of the German Inventors House, who visited both Edison and Tesla in 1930 to 1931, Tesla indeed had a working prototype of the technology, in the form of a Pierce Arrow car. In the memorandum, Heinrich Jabens writes the following. On November 8, 1930, I traveled with the express steamer New York from Cuxhaven to America. After visiting Edison's laboratory in Orange, I received a message from Nikola Tesla. We met at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel. There Mr. Tesla suggested that we drive to Buffalo the next day, where he would like to show me, in strict secrecy, his work in progress, which is powered by ether energy according to one of his earlier patents. The next morning, Mr. Tesla brought an elongated suitcase with him. He mentioned that this is the key to success, which he wants to show me today. The car was in a hall on the outskirts of Buffalo, where a mechanic was waiting for us. It was a Pierce Arrow passenger car from which the gasoline engine and the tank had been removed. A brushless alternating current coil motor was mounted on the coupling housing by means of a traverse. A small battery was used to supply the lighting, headlights, and horn. The mechanic removed a converter from the case, which was permanently installed on the passenger side. A cable ran to this and was connected to an antenna-like pole at the rear of the car. Another cable went through the floor to a sanding pad, and a 1/4 inch thick cable was routed from the converter via a foot switch in front of the driver's seat and from there to the electric motor. Another cable ran back from the motor to the converter. While Mr. Tesla showed me the car and explained it, the mechanic made the car ready for a test drive. He then hired the mechanic to take us on a trip to the Niagara Falls. After we arrived at the Niagara Falls, the mechanic had to wait about an hour because Mr. Tesla wanted to show me the new turbo power plant, which was built according to his ideas. This was very impressive. Then we drove back to Buffalo with the Pierce Arrow. During our investigations, we have found supportive evidence that gives credence to the Jabens memorandum. His name was found on the passenger list of the express steamer New York. He arrived at the New York port on the 15th of November and stayed in the United States for 2 months. We also found a typewritten document, supposedly sent from Thomas Alva Edison to Mr. Heinrich Jabens, in which Edison confirmed an in-person interview to be taken place in November 1930 between himself and Mr. Jabens, also validating the content of the memorandum. We also managed to find evidence that Peter Savo, whom Mr. Jabens met on his cruise from Cuxhaven to New York, and who connected Mr. Jabens to Tesla, was the person he stated himself to be. We were eager to find out the truth. Would remote viewing data support or contradict the content of the memorandum? It is time we find that out. The following targets were tasked to the viewers. Target 8429-2321. Move to the optimum position in spacetime to accurately perceive and describe the man-made that Heinz Jabens and Nikola Tesla rode together on in Buffalo. Target 8429-2322. Move to the optimum position in spacetime to accurately perceive and describe the main energy source system of the man-made that Heinz Jabens and Nikola Tesla rode together on in Buffalo. Target 8429-2323. Move to the optimum position in spacetime to accurately perceive and describe the main operating principles of the apparatus for the utilization of radiant energy patented by Nikola Tesla under patent US 6859557A. And lastly, target 8429-2324. Move to the optimum position in spacetime to accurately perceive and describe how Nikola Tesla got his inspiration for his invention, the apparatus for the utilization of radiant energy. In his session on Target 8429-2321, Don relays data points such as swooping, enthusiasm, landmark, traveled, resting, reaching a goal, intuition, planning, methodology, fun exuberance, oscillating, accelerating, unprecedented growth, rocky, pebbly, indented, indigenous, out in the open, landscape, brown, gritty, dirty, valley-like, sandstone, high-rising cliff walls, people gathered, inspecting, looking at something. The target has to do something with the past, explorers, researchers wearing khaki clothing and wide-brimmed hat. In her session on Target 8429-2321, Gemma declares biological has remained gestalt. Her first impressions include descriptors such as dry, hard, rocky, cracked, bumpy, rough, arid, raised, creviced, indented, yellow, golden, beige, earthy natural colors, and outside smells, a rather cold and bit fluctuating temperature. She also draws a blocky structure that looks like a dam and bears resemblance to the Scholkopf power plant. In his session on Target 8429-2321, John Dixon declares biological, energy and land as his main gestalts. His first descriptors are hard, shaky, long, quiet, flowy, round, yellowish, grayish, bubbly, round, flat, tongue-like texture and shape. He declares analytic overlays of a submarine, a knife, a dagger, and a needle. The type of the supposed car was Pierce Arrow. In his Stage 4 matrix, John lists descriptors such as black, cylindrical, dividing, speckled, mounted, metallic, jumping, driving, quiet, focusing, and directive motion. In his summary, he describes an object that is long, sharp, rounded, piercing, cylindrical, metallic, and has a purpose of special motion. In her session on Target 8429-2321, Lily starts off her session with describing pungent chemical smells, static-like radio sounds, low-impact sounds like solid hitting solid, and some metallic texture. She also describes a large cylindrical, tall, beige or brown, light blue or light gray, grooved structure with bronze or copper elements and a plastic or metallic feeling texture. We have speculated this might also be the description of the Wardenclyffe Tower. The visual dissimilarities prompted me to research what other landmark the structure might represent. Based on the descriptions and drawings, it is also likely that the large, cylindrical, tall, light blue or light gray, grooved structure with bronze or copper elements represents the Buffalo Main Lighthouse. In his sessions on Target 8429-2321, Patrick declares biological, motion energy, and man-made as his main gestalts. His sensory data includes perceptions of the energetic component as radiant, green, hazy, dim, luminescent, bright, glowing, and radioactive. The man-made, he describes as dark, shiny, polished, sheen, hard, angular, boxy, edgy, solid, metallic. He then picks up on a feeling of charged atmosphere with an esoteric high strangeness feel. He describes the main biological component of the target as male, skinny, long, tall, and slender with the idea of a male wearing a fedora hat in the 1940s style. In his session on Target 8429-2322, Chris declares a man-made and two biological gestalts. His descriptors include hard, blocky, red, sealed, walled, artificial light, and housed inside. His analytic overlay is a metal box that is warm, but not hot, impractical and irritating. In his session on Target 8429-2322, Don declares motion energy and man-made as main gestalts. His descriptions include an unusual energy with a from far to near dimensional aspect, energy that is traveling, oscillating, directed, descending, and darting around. The energy is described as interacting with a base surface. His drawing is similar to the commonly used Wi-Fi signal. His impressions of the man-made structure are that it is round, metallic, shiny, confined, pointed upward, tall, cylindrical, aimed, complex, and it is involving some electronics. He also picks up horn tooting, talking and motor sounds. In his session on Target 8429-2322, John Adams declares a natural landscape as his main gestalt. After listing descriptors such as stone-like, rocky, windy, rusty, he goes on to say, there is a fleeting sense of electricity or lightning. He then picks up on a boxy metal structure described as a container or temporary vessel. He also picks up on a biological whom he describes as a leader type, a curator. He also has impressions of a laboratory somehow being related to the target. He notes down concepts such as grid-like, transference, and flow. He also draws what he describes as a source of light. It seems from the drawings and descriptors that he was picking up on a metal box that was connected to light energetics. In his session on Target 8429-2322, John Dixon declares motion energy as his main gestalt. His next gestalt is a structure, which he describes as rugged, pointy, tall, zigzagged, curved. His descriptors include oblique, black, glossy, rounded triangular, rectangular, square, blobby-looking, glossy, smooth, metallic, rumbly, and rigid. Interestingly, he mentions perceiving smoke, and an oxygen-poor air quality also. In his sessions for Target 8429-2322, Patrick first starts with motion energy and man-made as main target components. The man-made feels angular, boxy, very gray, dim, smooth, horizontal, square, longer in length than width, flat, smooth but matte, with markings like glyphs on it. He then proceeds to pick up on a luminescent wispy energetics with a green pulsing translucent glow, radiating outwards. The energy is described as having a vapor-like, misty, transparent texture and a very exotic, ominous feel. In his session on Target 8429-2323, Chris declares a biological, an energetic and a man-made gestalt. His descriptors include leveled, dialed, locking or locked, metallic, hard, with impressions of some liquid flowing. In his summary he writes that his impression of the target was that it is a mechanical and aged tool or device that is no longer operational. His drawings bear great visual resemblance to figures included in the Tesla patent document. In her session on Target 8429-2323, Gemma declares structure as the main target component, which she describes as hard, solid, indented, segmented, with smoky smells, salty, metallic, unclean, chemical taste, and a revving machinery or engine sound. Her analytic overlay at this point is a vehicle, with wave-like energetics also involved. She also sketches an umbrella-shaped structure, which she notes is associated with pulsating energetics or frequencies, somehow connected to velocity. Some of her most prominent conceptuals are navigation, ingenious, invention, expedition, knowledge, data collection, and advancing civilization. In his session on Target 8429-2323, John Adams declares motion as the main component of the target, which he describes as circular, angled, red. He gets the sense of a related object that is round, flattish, gray, well-shaped with a raised center. He also reports energetics that feel turbulent, swirling, radiant and prism-like. He then goes on to describe objects that look like oval discs of opalescent shell material, and steel panels, or collectors, that remind him of electrical panels. For conceptual data, he lists electromagnetism, flux, and Tesla-type energies. As to the purpose of the target, he gets information such as magnets, magnetometer, enabler, wave mechanics, and a pulsing radiant bright light. In her session on Target 8429-2324, Lily describes a large, tall, brown, segmented cylindrical structure and an angular boxy structure that feels like a vessel. She gets the impression of a male subject in a spacesuit and a domed or umbrella-shaped structure that is thin and collapsible, with functions of collection and flotation. Is it possible that Tesla had a vision of the future as inspiration for his invention? We will try and answer this question up next, when the viewers discuss what their understanding of the target data is.
The team and I have decided that our chat is going to focus on some key questions with regards to the sessions that we have done. The most important question I am asking every viewer is, based on your sessions on targets 1 and 2, would you say that there was or was not a car as portrayed in the memorandum of Mr. Yavins? Chris is going to answer that question first.
Yeah, so that first target I did, looking through it, I didn't get much of a car. Actually, I didn't really describe anything that would be car-like. That one particular one, that's the one where I was going over that there's like a locked box.
Yeah.
A lot of water in a locked box, and maybe there was water in the box. So I mean, nothing really with a car. I mean, the only redeeming thing I think I remember you showed me that that Tesla did have some kind of box. I don't know if it was locked, but he had something. It was explained that he would carry something to this. There was a car, and Tesla brought something to the car, and either like connected it or plugged it in or something.
Yes.
And I don't think it was ever described what it was.
No, it is part of the memorandum. There is like, I made two connections based on this. Mr. Evans described that there was a battery that looked like a locker box. And Tesla brought this battery, which looked like a locker box, and put it inside where the engine would be. And he also had to connect it. And there was one part that was coming out of the car as a rod or something like a collector, tall thing with a collector or antenna. So that could have been it also, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I know Paul Smith explained to me what door knobbing was. When you probably all know, it's like, but I'll just explain. It's like when, like, if I guess it'll explain to me, like, if the target's a house, I'm kind of looking at the doorknob of the house, but I'm not actually seeing the house. So, you know, assuming I was on target, I might have been doing the doorknobbing thing. But
my second question to Chris was, with regards to your session on Target 2, I came to the conclusion that what you are describing is probably a regular combustion engine. What is your take on this? Is what you describe a regular combustion engine or an electromagnetic one?
yeah, so this is the interesting one. This one I actually did last. I think I did it in October 3rd, whereas the other one, the one we just talked about, I did August 29th. So there was a big stretch. I think I did one in between there too. But this particular one on question 2 you have, that's the one after some time had passed. I know someone had mentioned that there was a Tesla target. And I think that's all they said. Isn't it the Tesla one? And that's all they said. So I sort of was, I guess it could be front loaded, I suppose. But really all I had was Tesla. I mean, I know a little bit about Tesla. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I know a little bit about the lore, but I never actually read about them. So this one, I do like this target. Unfortunately, it potentially could be front loaded in a way, but just saying Tesla, I did AOL drive Tesla because I was aware of it. But I did get a lot of all things, I did get a lot of energy. I got let me see here. I got the light. I got some artificial light, something housed inside. Again, a metal box. And then I'll just read them here. I had warm, not hot, irritating, impractical. And then I had this one sketch where I had this swirling liquid gas composition, not so much gasoline, but more just the gas form. Minor health risk. That could be gasoline too. Then I had lighter than oxygen. So I'm thinking some sort of gas that's lighter than oxygen. So, I mean, if it's not, assuming I'm on target, if it's not gasoline, if it is gas, if it's not, I wouldn't be describing a combustion engine with gasoline. That would be something else. So, I don't know. I like this one. Again, it's potentially front loaded, but I was getting something. I'm not really a technical person, so I could have been describing something pretty common, and it just wasn't familiar to me. It could have really been anything, really, but But no, I was getting something not gasoline, something tucked away. I don't know. It could go either way. I mean, I kind of say to myself that maybe I was onto something, but it really could be interpreted either way. But anyway,
It is hard actually. I think probably viewing these targets was not easy, and then matching the data, especially when it was not the conventional part when you talk about structures and biological like things that we understand, but the physics aspect of it, it's quite hard. So I understand why you say you are not sure which way to go with this one. I had the same problem when I was trying to assemble the data and see which one could it be, because some sessions were strongly favoring the argument that it was not a conventional engine, and some like yours was like, oh, okay, it can go both ways, and I'm not sure. My last question to Chris was, in your session on target 3, you were picking up accurate technical elements of the target device, especially drawing-wise. You noted, the device is no longer operational. Would you expand on that?
Yeah, so that was actually the very first one of the 3 that I did. I did that one late August. Yeah, so going into a brand new target, I mean, I try to clear my mind. I mean, I just keep anything and everything possible, I guess. But yeah, I guess they're no longer operational. I guess those kind of more of a, that's the one where I just kind of, that's the last thing I wrote on here. It just kind of came, and I've noticed when I do summaries, I'll be writing some information. I try not to be too, yeah, there it is. I try not to be too analytical on summaries, but it's probably myself telling myself to maybe keep going, you know, because sometimes my sessions are kind of more on the skimpy side. I probably could, you know, get curious. I know Lynn says get curious. I probably should do that, but yeah, that no longer operational. I like that. I think of all the things on target, it's probably the most on target thing I had on this one. It did fit the tasking. And there were some other things, some other technical like gears and interlocking things, and I think it was a gear shifter, and then liquid flowing. So I didn't really know what was going on here. I was kind of doing my best to try to describe something mechanical. I didn't really commit. I did say metallic, so I did commit to it being metallic. But other than that, not a whole lot to go on. But
yeah, but these again, 3 drawings up in here, like they are almost, you could like take out the patent drawing and you could match these drawings against them. So it was like not very descriptive, like your session didn't have much descriptors, but the visuals were really showing that you have target connection there. You have the liquid here, so maybe the liquid gas connection in the previous one was because of ether, I don't know. But that was a great job. Yeah. Sorry for interrupting.
Nope. No, I was random. You know, I did like these targets, and I think I was on target a little bit and probably off target more, but I think overall I enjoyed it. It was a fun target. It was interesting, kind of going after that sort of stuff.
My first question to Gemma was, even though there were some displacements in the first 2 sessions, in the session on the 3rd target, you describe biologicals traveling in a vehicle and note down wave-like energetics. You draw and describe elements of the patent device as well. How would you sum up your sessions with regards to the technology and the car?
I'm not sure really, but I think going back to what Chris said about doorknobbing, I think things like that could be possible if perhaps the car didn't actually exist. So, you know, if the car wasn't real, is it possible that the subconscious mind goes to other elements connected to the scenario or the situation? I don't know. I didn't think it had anything to do with the car when I was doing the session. So I don't really know if there's a car there or not. But I know other people did draw car type things, didn't they? And so I just don't know with that. Sorry.
Yeah, I asked this question to everyone because when I was assembling the data, it was obvious, like the first, the targets ending with 1 was it's especially for that reason. I mean, a car is not that hard of the target. It's not exciting, I know. So it might be boring, and that can cause some displacement, but it's not a hard target. I mean, it's something we are familiar with, like with houses, dwellings. So I assume that if there was a car, maybe I should first, you know, go for the structure itself, because it's evident that people would be able to describe it and even maybe draw it. And when I was going through the sessions, he was shouting at me, "Man, there is no car." I mean, they are describing what could be parts of the car, or they have descriptors that could be describing a car. And but I mean, I don't see a car AOL. I don't see one obviously angular moving structure on like any of the sessions. There were hints about people traveling. There were hints about vehicles, but given the car was the main target, I was like, that's interesting, that I just don't see this overwhelming evidence of a car being there.
Yeah, and I think in the past when we've done projects together, we've all had pretty concrete things when it comes to certain sessions.
Yeah.
Like the rocks and the Saturn project. But with this one, it just felt a bit more vague in terms of if there was a car there. Perhaps the idea of doing a car like that was something at some point, I don't know, but for me, I didn't get any feeling of a car. I don't remember any like strong feeling of a car. But that's just me. Other people might have got more.
Yeah, I think Don and John Dixon sent in already their answers, and they say that based on their sessions, they would roll for a car, even though it's not like strongly evident, or what I would expect. I mean, I have expectations, and those expectations might not be correct. But they said that based on their own data, they would say there was. So there is like a split, but hey, that's a project and we are investigating. So the possibility is open, and we cannot be certain that either the memorandum is correct or it's not correct. We have some evidence that says that yes, this is what happens. But based on the fact that we are looking back like 90 years in the past, and back then there were not like videos and stuff like that, we don't have an overwhelming amount of evidence, just a few hearsay and one memorandum. So this is what we were going by. I would absolutely accept the point of view that there was not a car, but I also accept that there was. This is why it was an interesting viewing, because I think we learn a lot what happens when we task shady things or things that are, you know, either or, not knowing what is gonna come back. This was like a fun thing, and I wouldn't be able to tell whether there was or there wasn't, because I think the data overall is non-decisive on that.
Yeah, but I think everything else about it was really interesting, what it brought up, especially other people's sessions. Some people got some really specific stuff to do with Tesla, which was amazing.
Yeah.
It sort of raises the question of where does the mind go if the target is non-existent.
My second question to Gemma was, since you also pick up on a research and development facility, my second question is, based on your impressions, which of the labs fit more with what you perceived? Was it the Houston Street Lab, the Colorado Springs Lab, or the Long Island Lab?
From what I remember about it, it just gave me this kind of scientific vibe of people measuring things, data collecting, that kind of, and there was like a sense of study, of students studying.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I remember about it. But apart from that, I don't really know. I mean, I suppose that's hard for me to remember what I drew, but yeah, the tower looked similar to one thing you sent me, didn't it? Or,
Yeah, I think it's gonna be this one. My last question to Gemma was, based on your sessions on target 3, would you say that there was or was not a car as portrayed in the Jevons memorandum?
what was the was it the second target?
The third.
The third, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Describe the main operating principles of the apparatus. Yeah, so I could see that one might be on target, but the first two I don't think were really that great.
I probably think that they were like displacement.
Yeah.
Location displacement.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think as well, like you said, the evidence is in sort of the consistency of the sessions of every viewer. And in the past, like we've had way more consistent sessions with each other when it's been a definite target. So yeah, I would say it's possible that the car didn't exist.
Mm-hmm. Okay. My first question to Lily was, based on your sessions, would you say there was or there was not a car as portrayed in the Jevons memorandum?
So I think from my sessions, in order to answer question 1, I would have to answer question 2, because the tower is just so important in supporting the idea of Mr. Jevons' memorandum being truthful.
My second question to Lily was, I understood your structured drawings as landmark depictions. One we agreed was probably indicating the power plant at Niagara. The second, the tower landmark, I found to be matching the Buffalo Lighthouse, but it also shows resemblance to the Wardenclyffe Tower. How would you interpret the data on that structure?
I didn't know about the Buffalo Lighthouse until much later on. And when I saw it, I was pretty impressed. I mean, visually, it could be a match. But up until then, I had assumed that I had sketched the Wardenclyffe Tower. And if we look at the first picture of the Wardenclyffe Tower, I will show you why I thought that. Okay, so what I think I did with the sketch right next to it is, if you look at the very top where the dome is, I think what happened was, I really felt like I could feel the the bottom of that dome was flat and it extended outwards. But above that, that's where I kind of got confused. And if you look closely at the top of the dome or like inside it, there's sort of like a smaller, sort of cylindrical sort of idea within the dome. And then it sort of tapers smaller up towards the top. So I think that's what I was focused. So that's why I drew what I drew, but I didn't know really how it fit with that top piece. It didn't occur to me that that was like nestled in. And so all I felt was like, that's on top. And so I just stuck it right on top. So I think that's what happened there. And if we look to the right side of my sketch, where the holes are, yeah, that. Okay, so I write inside structure. So what I meant by that was that I went inside the structure and looked out. And when I looked out, I was seeing these sort of cutout shapes. They were like empty gaps. So I think that would support the idea of like a framework.
Mhm.
The framework idea fits more with the Wardenclyffe
Mhm.
Tower more than the Buffalo Lighthouse.
Mhm.
So obviously, to go back to the first question, if this was the Buffalo Lighthouse, then that's 1 out of 2 landmarks that I could use to support the idea that there was a Tesla car in Mr. Judden's memorandum.
Mhm.
But if this tower that I sketched is actually the Wardenclyffe Tower, that's, you know, less support. It doesn't mean that the car doesn't exist, didn't exist, but there is less support for it. So
Mhm. So you
Yes.
basically you have this similar feeling to Gemma that chances are that the car itself did not exist. So you just like every viewer naturally probably does went on to the next more interesting thing related to the target, be it either locally or be it related to Tesla at that time, if I understand you correctly.
I mean, that's very possible. I think that would make more sense, but I really, really like the idea of the Tesla car being real. So, I mean, I don't know, but yeah, there definitely from my own session, I don't think that I showed that there was a car definitively, but I think there's a little bit of support for it. So
my question would be, how would you interpret your data on the session that you did on Target 4?
Right. Well, I definitely think that I might have captured some of or one of his future flashes. So let's pull up the second picture, second or third.
That would be the one with the astronaut or the one with the...
Yeah, that would be the rover. They both have it in there, but
Yeah.
let's look at the main picture first, the one of the rover. Okay. Right. So that is the Apollo lunar rover. And so I think, so, I mean, you all know that that means that's the vehicle that was on the moon. So this is an electric vehicle and the first passenger vehicle on the moon. Okay, so that's the astronaut interacting with that antenna. So I think that even though the moon landing is like obviously a notable human technological advancement event, I think that it's all about the rover. It's all about that vehicle. And I think that's just particularly relevant to Tesla. And I feel like as interesting as the moon landing would be to him, I think that the rover would definitely have been something that his subconscious would want to show him in a future flash.
Yeah, because I think actually, like few people know, but these vehicles are not based on the fact that they have to operate in very different conditions than cars on Earth. I mean, temperature-wise, pressure-wise, and stuff like that. So these vehicles are operating on batteries, and they try to collect energies from the sun via sun panels, solar panels. So it is, and the description that it has, this pole and it has this collector umbrella, which was also part of the description of the patent, would make absolutely sense in the sense that it could be something, or it could be an idea or a future event that would be drawn to Tesla or Tesla's attention in terms of how to solve the problem that he was about to solve, which is, how to get energy with not the conventional means, but like with his alternative concept of energy being free and available everywhere.
And I thought about why this one, because this wasn't the first one. The first one was just, I think it was 1970. There was one before this, but it was remote controlled from Earth.
Mm-hmm.
There were no passengers, but this one, private. And so I think that really fits with what he would be particularly interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Based on your remote viewing sessions, would you say there was or was not a car, as portrayed by Mr. Jebben's memorandum, that was powered by a Tesla alternative energy source? To answer this question, I suppose we need to first corroborate that Mr. Jebbens and Tesla actually traveled by car, and my sessions do briefly speak to that. I put together a spreadsheet of my perceptions and sketches, listing things under different column headings. My sessions did not describe a physical car per se, though I did write goes from place to place and motor noise quiet, which hints that the car's motor was not your typical, easily recognized gasoline-powered engine. I also heard a horn toot, again conveying a sense of travel by car. I also got many road-traveling perceptions. So there is evidence in my sessions that Mr. Jebbens and Mr. Tesla traveled by car. So now let's move on to the claim that Tesla ran this particular auto not by gasoline power, but rather by some alternative energy. In terms of a device used to collect and utilize cosmic energy, I had perceptions of a methodology and planning, something representational and inspired. Representational is an unusual word, which means the portrayal of something in a particular way. And if you think about it, that's pretty accurate for Tesla representing his cosmic energy device by powering a car. It's representational. It was also man-made, involving abstract research, and gave birth to a legend, which is also accurate and certainly true, since the device has over time become something of a legend. And it involved sun and strips. These words don't seem to be describing a gasoline engine, now do they? Now for the energy source for the device, I sketched this wave-like energy coming from above, with written perceptions like from far to near energy, and unusual, traveling and oscillating. It was directed and interacts with the base surface. It was descending and darting or bouncing around, which is what sunlight does, and probably cosmic rays too. And I drew a picture of a descending star, which is like sunlight or sun-based energy coming down from above. Finally, for the device itself, I had perceptions of electronics and an operations center that was a man-made launch pad and involved something circular and tubular. Glass vacuum tubes were known to be part of the mechanism, connected below the surface and leading to the surface, closely matching Heinz Jebben's written description of the wires routed from the Tesla device below the car to the electric motor and above to the antenna. So based on this data, I would say my sessions confirm Tesla was demonstrating some sort of alternative energy prototype as described by Heinz Jebben.
Do I believe they both rode in the car? I really can't say definitively. I can only speak to the fact that there seemed to be good success with the transference and utilization of radiant energies, at least in the workspaces and at his home and his workshop, but I wouldn't doubt that part of the record. There appeared to be an electrical motor or generator. At one point I picked up on some kind of vehicle, but it seemed like a truck. So as far as I went on that aspect of the target or project, well, first of all, thank you for the nomination, and I'm hoping for a Nobel Prize soon. No, but I've had some science courses in the past, some different areas of study. I've always liked thinking about things like physics, metaphysics, and the universe, and seeing what intuitions come from that. And I suppose RV is similar. It's kind of a natural crossover in that it works off of intuition. So. The cosmic radiant technology on the surface is subtle and simple, but it's possible that Tesla was working with something more powerful. Looking at the sessions, that's what it seemed like. Now, were all these other forms of harnessing and working with energy in tangent with cosmic radiant technology? I'm not sure, but it would appear that it was tapping into something more. From the sessions we get that it's directed, it utilizes energetic pathways, it's organic, it operates from higher dimensions and is difficult to define. In its higher form, it's intelligence. And the session I did mentions memory, that it has memory, and I guess you could say that perhaps in a way all things do, or at least all things convey information, and no different with energy. Information is just the organization of things conveying something. And I believe that reality is information based, and that the physical reality is projected from at a quantum or from a quantum level. let's see, it utilizes wave mechanics and the exchange of forces and somehow uses the different wavelengths of light. We had different colors depicted in the session of energy and different wavelengths mentioned, as well as wave mechanics. I believe it comes through the vacuum of space or into this physical dimension from hyperreality. There's a grid or flat plane that is labeled as a director, or could be labeled or defined as a director or accumulator of energy. And that is probably directed with the technology that's defined in the sessions, but science doesn't, apparently, the science as we know it is not completely, does not completely understand the technology, and when it does, the energy can be better utilized. And this is only a step in the right direction. It's something that could better the centuries, I guess, in terms of energy utilization and perhaps efficiency. If I had to further speculate on the data, I would say that the oval discs were made from shell and used as a primitive sort of circuit board material, though this isn't definitive in any way. And the steel panels could be the energy collectors with a control panel that may be connected to the primitive circuit inside of wood and glass, like a cabinet with some kind of bronze apparatus inside of there. It could be also partially copper, bronze, brass, copper. There could be a coil, there could be an amplifier, channeler, or director of energy, some sort of rudimentary capacitor. The energy transference involves the electromagnetic flux and radiance, and the rotational cylinder depicted. This could be the electrical motor or generator mentioned using copper and magnets. I had sketched an image of a room dedicated to this, I believe, with like a grid floor, or I think it was a floor and or iron or copper flat metal used for the induction or some sort of electrical induction work. The inspiration, I believe, for the technology appeared to be from higher dimensions, and I drew one distinct being, and at one point later in the sessions I felt like I was perceiving a dimension of light, one that would overtake and eclipse this one, or any sort of negativity or otherwise. It's a dimension of love and light, and perhaps our true, higher, more true portion of reality, or all it is. But that's about all I have on this one.
Question 1. Based on your sessions on Target 1 and 2, would you say that there was or was not a car portrayed in Mr. Jevons' memorandum? Most definitely. I definitely had some AOL drives throughout the second target, or was it the first target or the second target? The first target. Yeah, we all everyone in the group seemed to have really hit spot on a lot of the physical attributes of what seems to be a vehicle or object or structure that for traversing, or for traveling. Yeah, so number one, yes, most definitely. In your session on Target 3, you were alluding to space in a bipolar electric field, which you described parts of the technology and drew a ratchet wheel. In contrast, your session 2 indicates more of a regular energy source. Did you feel any connection between Target 2 and 3? Yes, I just believe that it was more of looking at both spectrums, like before and after, and just comparing the two. I don't necessarily believe that the data that I collected was supposed to indicate that it was just a regular vehicle. I believe it was just supposed to, describe and show more of a broad sense of how a gasoline engine works compared to the new energy that is described in the memorandum. Thank you. Question number 2. In your session on Target 1, you were alluding to a vehicle and came close with your drawings and AOLs to draw and name the actual car model. Knowing the target now, how would you evaluate your data there? Car, not car. My data personally, it looks like I kind of, cited off to AOL drive. Definitely similar in components between the AOL drive and the car that is spoken of with Mr. Jevons. I had black, rounded, obtuse triangle components, blobby looking, rigid, glossy, smooth, metallic, steel-plated texture, curved or spherical almost, AOL elemental. I don't believe that, with me being my analytical mind, I believe that I just couldn't process that it was a car. Me personally, that was, my analytical mind sees vehicles now, gasoline, diesel, electric. Something like that was different. I focused more on the energies behind the car than I did, the actual car itself. So yeah, even though I did AOL drive, my data, I don't believe it says it was a car. But comparing the two, I think it's pretty obvious that from all of our collective data, definitely a car.